also going to go get myself a fizzy water. Hello. I think we're live, David.
I don't think anybody is watching us.
Wow, that's a...
I'm going to tell you why. Because that is covering that.
Oh, I should really put this all down like...
Uh-huh.
There we go. Hello. See, look. Oh, as I toss pens about. See, look.
This is just a disaster.
Really is. I didn't actually hit the start streaming button in the other software program, and so I was just staring at YouTube and, you know, being like, David, why isn't it letting me stream? And it turns out I'm not really good at this stuff. Normally, I would hit the start streaming button from my laptop so I wouldn't have to worry about it. Or not the start streaming, but the go live, so I wouldn't have the YouTube page all pulled up on screen. But, you know.
Really passing?
Oh, it's like, I bet that has something to do with like Happy Passover.
The
Like
heck is that?
This week, leading up to Easter.
It's Passover.
It's the holiday. It's mainly a Jewish holiday, but it's also part of the Christian tradition. And like tomorrow's Good Friday, if you follow that tradition.
I've heard all
That's
these
where you get
words.
some hot cross buns.
I've heard all these words. I have no idea what they mean. Anyway, all right. So we're going to start with the poll. And we had 3 options for this poll.
David sounds super awake and excited
I'm
to be here.
Tired. I'm still a little tired. Okay. So there are 3 things. So for this poll, we were discussing like pluralization and then also definiteness, maybe. And so we have 3 options that all do different types of things. So let's go over these options. The first one, I'm going to read. This was a 1 plural determiner. And so it was going to be, and we were going to have it merge, right? Like with the genitive. That was right. And so we were going to have some plural, we were going to have some plurals, right?
Yeah. So as a side note, I need to know, Mateus, you need to tell me more about these agles. I need to know more about that. And I expect some new Latisse photos going up on Discord. Okay. And today is indeed Monday, Thursday. Okay. So
What the heck is that?
Again, part of the tradition. Don't worry about it.
All right.
So yeah, it's this one. We would definitely we have decided we're going to do something to mark plurality.
Yeah.
The question is what and how many types of plurals we might mark. And so yeah, this strategy was
this was just one, and it was going to trigger some mutation.
Yeah.
And so that was why that one was fun. The second one was we were going to have these preposed pronouns. Preposed pronouns. Can you do it?
Preposed pronouns.
It's pretty good, actually.
Did better than David.
Do the eggs involve egg? Because I probably wouldn't like them.
It's the plural of eggs, so I'm going to say yes. But I was very excited to find out what dish it was. But that's okay. Plural of egg is exciting too.
Graham is here. So now we can apologize to him in person.
And say, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so our preposed pronouns.
Yes.
The idea is that this would only be used probably in the unmarked case, so only for subjects, and it would distinguish definite singular, indefinite singular, and plural, but not necessarily definite plural. It'd be any plural. So, brunchables. I like that word. Anyway, so that would kind of like it's very similar to like the Philippine languages, to where something's getting, like one argument gets special treatment and the rest just kind of get the leftovers, you know? And then we had C. This one was really Jesse's idea to have different types of plurals. What's going on? Oh.
And I couldn't lean the way I normally lean. 'Cause you're right there.
Here, hold on a sec. You got a hair. You got a hair. You got a hair. You got a hair.
Okay,
It's still
okay.
there. It's still there. It's still there. Okay. All right. There.
It's attached. Don't pull too hard.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Sorry.
David's getting distracted by chat.
Plural strategies, and they won't be classifiers. They'll just be different types of plurals. So it won't be tied to nouns. You can use any of these plural options with any different word. It'll just be different types of plurals. So that was the poll. There's a very clear winner and a very clear set of losers. But please don't make me add them up because I forgot.
I thought that you had said for a long time we actually had
oh yeah. Oh, for a long time one option was winning, and then it flipped around, and then another option was winning, and then it got really tight at the end.
And so there wasn't a clear winner at the end.
No, at the end there's a clear winner, and that I don't have to add it up. I can tell. Because the same option is winning each poll, even though it's winning each poll slightly. Oddly enough, and this makes absolutely no sense to me, the place where it is winning the most is the consultant poll, the second poll. Maybe it's just an artifact of percentages, but yeah, it's like got a very slight lead in the confidant, a bigger lead in the consultant, and a slight lead in the conspirator. So last place option was B. They didn't like the Philippine option. It was like, it could be fun, it could be fun.
And patrons were like, no fun.
No. But it did get a lot of votes. It did get a lot of votes for a last place finisher.
I will say that when I say there was a clear winner, usually what I mean is like the winner won by, 20 plus votes, and there's like just this major drop off between options A 1 and 2. What David's looking at is perhaps there is indeed mathematically a winner who has won its place. There's no ties. There's no it's distinguished by half a vote. But like all these options got support. So it's not like there's any one option that had 1 or 2 votes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the preposed pronouns out, and which is probably good because David's struggling saying it. So it's good to be out.
Let's change the wording slightly. It's not a clear winner. It is an easily identifiable winner. It is super easy to look at these polls and say who first, second, and third place is, even though the result is tight. Is that better?
Much clearer.
All right. Okay, and so then for the top 2, then we had A and C. And I will say that at the beginning, honestly, at the beginning, B was winning. And then B ended up coming in last place. A, I think, was winning for a little bit. But ultimately, C was the one that came through and had the lead most of the time. So yes, C is our winner. We're going to have multiple different plural things.
All right, so a couple things. Building off that one, that leads very nicely into the topic of discussion that we had earmarked as where we were going to start this week. And that is making a decision about modifiers and their placement relative to the noun, because this is going to be really important with this multiple plural strategy. Because essentially we're going to be coming up with either the plural is going to be a modifier for the noun, or the whatever we use for the plural marker will actually be seen as the head of the phrase with the noun modifying it. One of those strategies is going to happen, and we have to figure out modifiers in general before we nail this down. Another thing that makes me happy with this winning is solely a personal thing. It was not that I had a favorite strategy, But after last week's stream, while David typed up the poll, I sat down and just started making a page of notes about potential lexical sources for these plural markers. And I got very excited about it. And then I was like, oh, shoot, it may not win, which means we may not get to discuss any of these options. But now it's won. David is staring into space.
It's gonna be a yawn. All right.
And I was very excited that that means we get to have this discussion.
Great.
Even if we don't use any of my ideas, I'm excited to have the discussion.
I was just going to say that Aaron asked if we had any paintbrushes.
It's a really good question, and I don't know that what I have would be the right size. I would have to look, because most of what I have are the larger sponge ones for doing the Mod Podge for my collages. Like, I don't actually have brushes, I don't think, because I don't really paint.
My parents might.
Wait, upstairs we used to we used to have some because Meridian painted that lighthouse for your parents.
Yes.
But I don't know if we kept it.
I don't either.
I don't know what happened to that bag. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It was a little bit of here, but it wasn't very much there. I'm going to level with you all.
Now you all know, as much as I love doing different kinds of crafts, I do not tend to paint, and so I don't really have paintbrushes in my stock of random art supplies. I have a lot of other really interesting supplies. Paintbrushes are really not one of them. Carl, I'm glad you're excited.
Oh my gosh, it's Carl. Hi, Carl.
Okay. So, yes. But Jake, my option came through, so it's all good. You all felt what I was going for.
Is this the first April stream?
Yes.
Oh, how about that?
Which means if you're a patron, also remember a new podcast episode dropped this weekend, right, really. And so that was hopefully exciting. And Jonathan, I don't know. I can't answer whether conlangs have as a group, a higher usage rate, frequency rate of the POCL compared to natlangs. But I mean, also there are a lot of historical markers that over time in languages conflated and dropped out.
Yep.
And a lot of times that happens with, for instance, number marking, where like there is a strong presence of, say, a dual marker in ancient Greek that is all but disappeared in modern Greek, if it hasn't fully disappeared.
Well, it's probably there in a few lexical items, holdovers, but yeah, so it's like it's like if you look at modern languages and look at dual number, it's probably overrepresented in conlangs compared to natlangs if you look at modern languages. But historically, dual is probably underrepresented in conlangs compared to natlangs.
Yes, yeah. That is true. And it's kind of fun to see how those forms end up conflating too, because it's, which forms end up winning out as just this form ends up being used, or whether two different forms end up kind of creating a brand new form, because over time they were sort of intermingled. Anyway, and yes, you're right, Carlin. A lot of natlangs, the POCL expression is now a sort of paraphrastic one where you use lexical items. So it's still expressible, just in a different way. All right. So, David.
No, Jay. Yes. So where is our purple item?
That's a good question. You know what I wish? Here we go. Is there a way to search by font color in Pages? I need to suggest this. There is. So one of the reasons, by the by, that like one of the few things that I think Word at least used to do better than Pages, I don't know if Pages has gotten better in this regard, was being able to search by very specific styles. And so, for instance, you could search but tell the program, I only want to find this result if it's a superscript or if it's bold. And like you could totally do that. And like Pages, as far as I know, doesn't let you do that as well.
No.
And it's really unfortunate because that would be rather nice at times like these to be like, I'm just going to search for this thing.
They keep on adding functionality that nobody wants and nobody asked for, ignoring some of the basic.
Well, Apple developers out there, I know you watch us regularly, and I know you know that we are big supporters of your products.
That's right.
And so, you know, consider adding that where I could do advanced search features by font
There was a little
characteristics.
There was a little dog outside.
There was indeed a dog outside.
A little black dog.
And that was
kind
entirely appropriate for our discussion
like one of those dogs
dog
that
languages.
You could do this, you know, the kind of fur where you can do this, you know.
Sure. So I'm going to, is your cursor actually in the document?
It is. It's
cool.
in the right place.
Then I am going to join you at your cursor. There we go. So here we go. This is where we're starting. We're going to talk about modifiers first. Oh, I guess I should leave this page open in my notebook because I have those strategies we can talk about. Okay.
It looks like we've already decided, excuse me, on the noun adjective word order. And it's that.
Is that what we decided on, or is that like what we were discussing?
Hold on a sec. Yes, we decided it.
Did we just decide that now? Because I believe that for some of our strategies, okay. Like, I feel like that was something we were in discussion of, and we hadn't necessarily decided it, which is why I specifically had a note that we needed to start with modifiers and their placement relative to the noun. But okay.
I thought that we did this right before finishing. After we decided on what the poll would be, then we were like, well, let's do this first.
Okay. And so our ordering here, we're very vague about where different things like pockle, plural, collective will come from.
Yes.
In my note-taking session, I came up with proposed forms that were both verbs and nouns. Because we had talked about the possibility of something like wag, which is a verb, kind of using it in a sense like a wagging of something, to be a plural, like a big group kind of plural. I think we should be consistent whether we use nouns or verbs, just because I think that helps form a sort of consistency to the system and gives us a really set strategy for how to work with it. But I have ideas for both. Do you?
Well, let's write them all down. So, like, we can actually just get rid of this because this is where we were hypothesizing. Let's start doing some real stuff. Okay. Potential number sources. All right.
Mm-hmm. Do you want them grouped by nouns, verbs, or some other method?
Oh, nah. Let's just write them.
Okay. And so some really just basic ones, right? That we could do like a pack or group of X. A den of X would be a slightly larger or smaller, I guess, because if you're in a den together, it's kind of smaller.
I do want to actually group them by the resultant number. So like pack and group, those are suggestions for one type. Is that correct? Whereas den is a different one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so pack and group would be larger than a den plural, okay, in my mind. And so do we want to do it like big plural, smaller plural?
Little large.
Little large? Yeah, cool. Okay. And we're going to need potentially more, so medium large could be another suggestion.
In between den and group?
Let's get here.
Go by your, yeah.
Okay, these are all sort of like I guess, under the large category.
Okay.
So like herd,
Yeah.
round up as a verb, like you round up a herd.
Yeah. Let's put that.
And wag, so like a wagging of, because when you're a dog that herds other animals, usually you go behind them so you see all their tails wagging, moving.
Quickly for anime fan, I mean, that's sure a potential suggestion for our language, but I will say that I have done that exact one before. Use the word empty for zero. Okay.
And then a medium large, little large, somewhere you decide, circle. Because if the group is small enough that you can still run circles around it, then it's like it's a group, but like it's a smaller group than, say, a large one that you just have to run behind.
10 is now medium large. Little large is now circle.
Okay. And that could be a verb or noun. And the beauty of how that works. Okay. I also, this one. Okay, this one is going to be for a pockle, so like a dual or trial kind of situation. So little large is rope.
Excuse me.
Oh my God, yes. Because when you put a rope, two dogs, even three dogs, will try to grab onto that rope and play tug of war. And that means if you have a rope, you've only got 2 or 3 dogs involved.
Huh.
A verb for that same concept is to pull.
Pull.
So a pulling of dogs would mean you got a couple of dogs. Okay, so then I also thought about, things that dogs have, nouns that happen in the plural. So under either pockle or little large would be paws, because you've got, a set number of paws and there's only 4 for each dog.
I'm going to put that under both.
And it really is fitting for pockle. And then for large, this would be large, things like fleas, where it's like there's so many you can't really count them if you have them. And then something that's large, like innumerably large, is like fur. You just have so much fur, like you can't even conceptually pull out fur by fur or hair by hair.
Yes.
Okay, so in the medium large, let's go down to that den area, maybe.
I'm gonna throw in some.
Sure. Down in the either medium large or little large group, we could have a playing of X, because it's like too many to grab onto a single rope, but you get like 4 or 5 dogs together and you're gonna have a little play group.
I'm gonna say that's little large.
For a large, a stampede or a running of. For a duel or a pockle, we put it there, is side. Because when you only have like a couple dogs together walking, they often walk side by side. And so like they try to shove and like get through the same space all at once. Like dogs trying to get through a door at the same time. And then a line could also be, like you could have a line of things for maybe little large or medium large. Okay, so those, and I had also had started jotting down ideas of like things that naturally occur in the plural in nature, sticks, trees, leaves, things like that. So like we could come up with ideas related to, just things that are naturally plural occurring if we want to go that route. Nice, Graham. The apocalypse. That's great. All right.
Oh, and go without saying, throw 2 in there.
Oh, sure. At any point, we could throw in numerical bases. And then, of course, there's always this sort of modifier words like many or whatnot. And so it's like there are just so Another one for dual would be like ear, because you know you have two ears. And so like if we went with body parts to kind of, you know, if you've got a paw of dogs, you got about four dogs, but if you got ear dogs, you got two. Um, and so there are just so many different directions we could go with this, and that to me is kind of exciting. So yeah.
So uh, for the outside of the dual, the the verbs really grab me. So I would point out here that the order of adjective and noun doesn't actually have any bearing here.
Okay.
Because the relationships that we're looking at are either verb and argument, or noun and possessor.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is going to trigger a gentival relationship, and the other, it depends. So when it comes to these verbs, it could either be the case that the verb is being treated as a noun, and this is why, you know, it's like, and this reflects, I think, in a way, the verbiage you were using, like a whacking of dogs, a pull of dogs, you know, a stampede of dogs, a running of dogs. You're kind of treating them like nouns,
Mm-hmm.
and they could do exactly that. Be these plural, these nominalized forms of verbs uh, that then are associated with the nouns via a genitival relationship, or it could be some sort of serial construction. But or the thing is, usually that's when the objects, it's when it has a verbal object. In this case, it would mostly be the subject, right?
Right.
Yeah.
As a total side note, if we do use the fall idea,
Mm-hmm.
we could literally also use rain for like raining dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. Too many raindrops to count. They just keep coming.
I like rain up there, though.
Oh man.
So, what do you think? We go all in on nouns and say that the verbs are nouny?
I guess that's like how I was making it make sense in my head, especially for this language. Um, because I feel like there's just going to be a lot of I feel like our the way we've set the language up, we're going to have zero derivation and conversion kind of situation where it's like, you know, it's a verb root, but like if you just use it in a noun position, it's suddenly like, oh, it means like the concept of
And
rain or raining or whatever.
and that can also be a distinction between the oldest form of the language and the modern form of the language, where the older form, zero derivation was easier, and in the modern form, it's tend to they've tended towards more overt, you know, derivation. Uh,
And so having older verbs be still show the zero derivation tendencies, but any anything that we would deem a newer verb or especially like a compound or something like that, like it'd be something created.
or even like, you know, these are zero derived for these, but then to actually show up in the modern language, they need a supporter. This is actually something you see, or at least I see. Now, I'm going to throw this out here. I've never actually studied Chinese. However, I've been looking at it, especially orthographically, a lot more often as inspiration when I was stuck with a glyph for Hypolarian. For example, it was like I knew I wanted a word for like a glyph for long, but I was like, how do you show length? And so I just went back to Chinese and I was like, well, how do they do it? And it's like, well, they point to long hair. It's like, hair. That's a thing that is often long and can be longer than somebody else's. And so I did my own drawing of long hair, and that's where the glyph for long comes from in Hypolarian. But what I have noticed looking up Chinese words like this, there are so many basic words that are disyllabic. And if you look at the glyphs in particular, it is often just like, well, this is the word, and this is just some other one that kind of like adds to it a little bit. Or it's just like it's two different words that mean the same thing. So I looked up fear today, just what was fear in Chinese. And the two glyphs, one means fear and one means terror. And it's just the word now. And so like, it just feels like that's something that would happen if you start paring down and paring down and paring down, and words get smaller and smaller and smaller. Eventually it's just too much. And so then you just have to start beefing them up again just to know what you're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I was suggesting.
So you were suggesting eventually having more disyllabic words because they've been reinforced by something else, like a marker or.
And we also have, and we shouldn't forget, usually it's Dark Horse who reminds us of this, but there's also the concultural reinforcement of this, which is like we can say that this was the Chihuahua's word for fear, and this was the Beagle's word for fear, and so they just put them together, kind of like we did in English with Last Will and Testament and things like that.
Mm. Or how all the other dogs, totally pronounce it Chihuahua. And so it's like the Chihuahua pronunciation gets reinforced with the Chihuahua pronunciation, and then they put them together, and it sounds like two different words, but it's really the exact same word.
I ask you a question, I'm a little afraid of the answer. Is this how people pronounced
No.
in Missouri?
No, it was how I taught myself to spell it.
Oh.
So in my head, I would say Chihuahua, so that way I'd write it out correctly. Because otherwise, Chihuahua, like, you would never guess that spelling. And so, like, when I was like 8 and learning to spell Chihuahua, I, in my head, would tell myself Chihuahua. So that way I'd remember to put the H's in.
It's easy.
But no, I never actually said it that way. Like, I didn't, like, my aunt always had a Chihuahua. And, like, I never went to her house and went, oh, you have a Chihuahua. Like, that's not,
okay.
I never said it out loud. It was always a mental, it's, like a mental thing, like where sometimes maybe you say ptarmigan out loud, but when you go to write it, you say ptarmigan to remind yourself there's a P in there. Mm. Just those little things.
Yeah.
Quebec. Oh, that's interesting.
Quebec. These are going to be initial words.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sound changes, sure. Oh, Sotan, welcome back. Getting caught up now. And yeah, these will be particles because we've already decided that essentially in this language we're not going to have a lot of, if any, actual inflection, right? Like on the words itself. It's all going to be supported through particles combining certain lexical items to get your meaning. So yeah, these would be outside of the noun form itself.
Well, let's ask ourselves this question.
Oh, Sotan mentions that Mandarin Chinese often needed clarifying words just because of the large number of homophones, because when you pare it down and you only have a certain number of sounds available in your language, eventually you're going to get a lot of things that sound exactly the same. And so yeah, take two things and put them together so you can really clarify. You mean this version of so, not this other version of so.
We have examples of this in English, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I know they exist. Equals noun of noun or modern noun. I think that's
think that's the genitive. I can double check my notes. Yes, that is the genitive.
Okay, so here's the first question. Do we want to say that these constructions, these plural constructions, are we going to say they're very old, so they predate the actual genitive, or that they're newer, and so they require the genitive? And the difference here is going to be one of how do you call it? The thing that this thing does, mutation. Essentially, if we go with the old method, it's simpler, but it's probably going to lead to a lot more mutation strategies for the content noun. For all of these, the particle is going to show mutation if relevant. And then for the modern one, the content noun is always going to take the genitive one, but the particle in front might be a little bit bigger. So might end up even being disyllabic in places. I really apologize.
Should I wait to say anything that you may want to hear until you get back?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So one reason I'm immediately I'm immediately drawn towards rather the more modern instantiation of this, where we're going to actually get the genitive marker in there, is because that would support how many different ways you can make something plural, and it would support a certain level of playfulness in speaker innovation, of being able to create a brand new plural on the fly and having other speakers be like, oh yeah, I get it. Like, so you have like a certain set of like, these are pretty standard ones that you'll hear speakers use. But I think it could be really fun, especially considering we had a lot of different dog groups coming together. That essentially, this is a more modern thing that happened, where it's like there were all these different ways of talking about plurals, and they kind of kept a lot of them, made some of them much more grammaticalized in the sense that you're going to get these plurals more often than not, but also leaves open the door of, you know, dogs just being like, on the fly, they want to really emphasize how many dogs there were, or how many leaves there were, and so they create a brand new sort of plural word, and everyone's going to understand what they mean because of that. And I think that could be a lot of fun. Not that we'll actually do that unless we just like go around translating text and be like, ooh, how do we want to like pluralize this one? But I think that's a fun thing to build into the language, to just say like that is a possibility, is creating entirely new plural constructions for fun that never get used again. It's like it was this one-time thing. It worked. Everyone understood in context, and then, you know, you move on. And so I like that.
All right. Jonathan is a really nice example, by the way, of this disambiguation due to incidental homophony.
Nice.
From Yiddish. So, okay. For that reason, I'm going to say let's go ahead and take away 2 as a potential source. That feels too old. All right. I say we do it. I say we start paring down.
Okay. Cool. Should we like run some polls?
I don't know.
To get some input on some of these? Like, I mean, we could, you know, definitely pare some of them down. or even get more suggestions for whatever might be a medium large, because right now we just really have two, and leaf is a hard one. Just because it kind of depends how many leaves you're. That could actually be a large. It kind of depends. So anyway, like how do you think we should do this?
I don't know. I'm having trouble with our dual right now because all the dual sources. So ear and eye, it's like here's the thing that is also in two, and side is this is what happens when these two things are side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the others are actually like, you know, a circle of dogs, a plane of dogs. Pa is also one that doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah, some of those nouns, again, that was part of a brainstorm session where it's like, where
Yeah.
could these come from? And it's completely viable that body parts could lead to number forms in a language. I think the way
Right.
we're talking about it here, you're right, it no longer makes sense
Here.
because you need to say a blank of whatever. And I
Yeah.
don't think it makes sense to say an ear of dogs.
I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something, and I'm going to tell you at least three people aren't going to like this, and one of them might actually rhyme with uh, Caspervidian. Um,
Jonathan checked with the World Lexicon of Grammaticalization for sources of dual, and it just says two. Yeah, I've been there, Jonathan. Jake is asking if pair or couple is too obvious. Oh, heaps of emus. I love it. That's great, Jake. And I agree with Mateus. Like, I would not want to be in a situation where I would need to say there are heaps of emus, because let me tell you, they are not kind. And if there's heaps of emus, I don't need to be next to them. Ooh, Magpie is suggesting something like a handshake of dogs. I know you say it's mostly a joke, and yet, just think, little fist bumps, little paw bumps. And if you can do that, you got two dogs. A little high five of dogs. I mean, listen, I get it's a joke, but at the same time, I feel like it's something we could run with because that could be really cute.
there's a reason that I put these. I'm actually going to do this one too. There's a reason that I put these in green and I didn't put them in red. Ratties are some of the best birds. I never would have guessed you would say ratties.
Do you see it says ratites? The I is between the two T's. I don't know if it's ratites, ratites. Like, I don't know how to say it, but it's definitely not ratties, is all I can say.
Well, at first I thought it was rarities, and I was like, no, that's a T, so it's got to be ratties.
And so, Tom, we haven't gotten so far as to think about pluralizing, say, a group of something. But honestly, with the strategy we're going with, you would just end up saying the plural of a group. So right now we're really just thinking, on individual. And I'm looking up this bird.
I think it's a bird group that encompasses the emu.
Oh, it sure does. Any flightless, large, long-necked, long-legged birds of the infraclass Paleognathi. Paleognathi? Nice. So there we go. Now, pronunciation. I'm checking that.
It's probably just pronounced like ratties.
Ratite. No, ratite. Ratite. Because stress is on the first syllable. So, God, I prefer ratite.
I prefer ratties.
Ratite.
They're little ratties. Okay.
Ratite.
And it makes sense that they're little ratties because they don't fly.
Nice. It's a type of bird, and I know that because of crossword
Oh,
puzzles.
that
It's
makes
a
sense.
very common clue for crossword puzzles because of the combo
Terror
of
birds.
letters.
There's a good word. Terror bird.
Ooh. I also like elephant bird. But
Now,
yeah, terror birds. Let me tell you, you'd be scared if an ostrich is chasing you.
now back to why I put these in green.
Green.
You ready for this?
No.
So I appreciate that you like the modern ones, or the idea of this being a modern thing. These would make sense if they were older ones. And so what we could have is a combination of old and modern.
Oh, I mean, sure, that works too. So
Oh,
like
ooh, Magpie just got smacked down.
um the one thing I would argue potentially against though with rain is only if you consider that, oh my goodness, David's looking up terror
I
birds.
know why they're called terror birds now.
They're huge. Okay, so but one thing that I would encourage David to keep in mind as he
Yes,
is searching terror birds
I just saw the word Santa Cruz.
is that rain, I was viewing it as a verb, and so like a raining of dogs, versus like if you
Okay,
just consider rain as a noun, like I could see that being more like fur and sand and being an older source because it's like rain at that point is no longer grouping them. So like it depends on how you treat it though, because we that's another discussion, right? How are we going to do weather words? Is it going to be like the
oh,
weather
I
words
think
are verby? Are they going to be nouny? And so like this one, I really feel you could go either way. You could make it old and have it be rain, as in like raindrop, or you could have it be potentially newer and have it be like a raining of dogs.
oh, I like it as a verb. I think we should definitely verb it.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Where to next then, David?
Well, I wanted to help us decide if we are appreciative of this strategy where we have both old and new, or if you wanted to ignore that and just delete the green ones.
I will only appreciate it if we have a healthy mix of both. Because if you only have like one older one, I feel like eventually it could get overwritten
I disagree.
unless it's just so frequent.
Mhm.
I mean, frequency can make a lot of things stick, sure, but I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, for example, I thought like if there was an old dual and on all the rest were new, that would make sense. Or maybe an old dual and an old plural, and then that was reinterpreted as they added all these new ones at a later time. And so, like the old plural is like large, large or something, or just depending on which one we do. For example,
And with the old, how would it wouldn't use the genitive construction. It would,
just be noun, noun.
and it would be in that order, like ear dog would be two dogs.
Yep. I'm partial to side for that one. And then the old plural could be fur. Though it would make more sense for all of them to be roughly of the same type. So ear or eye, ear probably is better. So, ear, there's two of it. And then maybe
I mean, technically, you have two sides.
like we could do ear, flea, and fur, and then the rest could be new ones. Or just ear and fur. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Technically, you do have two sides.
I kind of would like I get having the large, but like I feel like if you have a specific dual marking, your next logical step is not to say like, oh, you've either got two of them or so many you can't count. Like,
Um, oh, you mean in terms of the source?
yeah. Um, like in terms of having an older system, I mean, I guess it's like what you're essentially saying in the system is you need to know if you have one or two, but then beyond that, it's like, so many things occur in such big numbers that like it doesn't really matter how many there are.
That is how most singular dual plural strategies work, but we could go ear and paw, for example.
I was trying to think of something that would be in between paw and flea.
Well, the only thing we've got now is leaf.
And that one I like less.
I wanted to go with things that were all doggish, on
Yeah.
the dog.
The emu counters. Oh my gosh. Oh, Jonathan, that could get really, really fun. Just in terms of language evolution, if this is a type of system you're interested in, where it's like something used to mean like a really big number of something, but then it just started getting used for any plural, and so it no longer was like this huge meaning, and so they had to replace it with something even bigger. Like that's pretty fun.
I've been steadfastly ignoring the word barngarla this entire stream.
I think this is only the first, maybe second time the language itself was mentioned. Otherwise, it was like we were talking about the heap of emus, and then, ratites, and so on. Is this? David is now reading. And Jake has a question. Biggest bird in Canada. Go. Thank you. David is really good at the puns.
The rare maple
like the
eagle.
Pockle. So now we're all on a terror bird search. I love it.
I mean, there's no way that something called a terror bird could be a little ratty.
Okay, so I am good with doing one of the dual strategies and then doing like fur. I get it. Jake's right. The heaps of emus. And so having just like a really big thing.
It's called.
I don't.
They call it the singular, dual, plural, and super plural.
Yeah, and that's what they were talking about was the super plural form.
Waraya, waraya yaranha. It's a whole bunch of them. Waraya albili too. Waraya yari. It's pretty cool. I like it.
So knowing that, do you want to talk about the dual form first, and then move up from there? I would like to have some more suggestions if we are going to make a just generic plural in between dual and large. I'd like to have more suggestions than just flee.
Yeah, we have.
Like that one was honestly, I was just trying to think of as an animal, what is something that you would end up, regularly encountering in big numbers, and flea, flies, like gnats, bugs. Those are things that you would often encounter in big numbers. So I wanted to put it down as part of the note-taking process, but it was by no means my favorite or one that I was like, we have to do this. It's just one of those things where like if you have one flea, you don't just have one flea. Like you're gonna have more somewhere. And so, yeah.
I like ear, I like side, and then I like paw for generic plural. Because they're things on the dog, and so they're all kind of a class of things, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I also like fur, but you said that was too big, and I understand that.
No, I was saying, like, you know, I've been convinced. Jake helped convince me. You helped convince me that that's a fine way to go. So like I now am fine with that. Whoa, one I want to add. Just a second, I just thought of something. Okay. I'm gonna add it in black, so I'm gonna put it here. A barking or a howling of dogs, because you usually do that in a group. But not a huge group. Just a little group.
Yeah. That's good.
I like that. Or if you've seen this week's LangTime Instagram drawing, you do it in a small choir, led by a mouse, of course.
Just had a fun idea. Fun idea for English. What if we replaced look with glare? It's like, hey, can you glare at this data for me for a second? Yeah.
Oh, I will glare. I will sneer, I will jeer, and I will glare at that data. Yes. Nice. So I think what we should do, David, is just take a tiny step forward and see what our viewers think about our dual options and see what they prefer out of those dual options, what they like best.
You got it. I'm doing it.
He was not even in the episode with us. It's right there. You can click it. It's live.
Well, no, but if I click on that one, then I don't go to the studio where I can do the poll. I don't think.
Oh yeah, you can, because I used to never be in this screen, but
really?
I still did polls. Yeah.
Should I do that?
Well, no, well, you're here now. Just you know, it's whatever method was faster. You know, as long as you're signed into our LangTime account, like you can do polls from any which ways. Oh, the heaviest bird in Canada is the mute swan. The largest bird by length is the trumpeter swan, lots of big swans. And the largest bird by wingspan in Canada is the American white pelican. Wow. And hey, CJ. I love how much scientific research right now is going on for ratites and terror birds.
I think it's pronounced ratties.
We're gonna ignore David and instead talk about CJ's comment. The meanest in Canada is the Canada goose, also known as the white raptor. That's amazing. I love it. Love it. Okay, so
let me see how many votes we have. We don't have a lot of
suddenly things are shifting very quickly.
Side of the dog, like a dog's actual side.
Like your rib cage side.
Because if you're beside a dog, then there's two of you.
You're side by side. David, while we're waiting for these results, I was gonna scooch out and go grab myself a little can of fizzy water.
Oh, I'll do that.
Will you? Oh, that would be really swell of you.
It does protect you, Jake. It does protect you.
Jake, you being you is enough to protect you from anyone's ire, right?
Oh, yeah, not for mine.
Oh, yeah, David is ireful.
Mm-hmm. It's because I come from Ireland.
Oh, my goodness.
What am I getting you?
Oh, could you get me a peach Waterloo, please? I want to try it. I put one in the fridge earlier today to get it ready. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to call this poll.
I think I is winning.
Yeah. A little surprised, a little disappointed. but what can you do? Okay.
Well, this is why you ask what's your preference, and then you can always override preferences.
Okay. Okay, and now
But the way you asked the question did not allow for that. Side was the lowest. Wow. Exactly, Jake. Schadenfreude. It's happening.
Okay.
Everyone look at David's Schaden.
And be Freude.
And you get your Freude on from this Schade. Okay, we're getting a... David's typing a new poll. And now we're going to wait for this poll to go live. And we're going to talk about the ramifications for the hallowed source of our precious dual, which is now I. Not even ear. Gosh. Like my favorite too. And David tacked I on. If you notice in my original list, nowhere did I say I. David put that in there. I liked side and ear the best, and now they've lost it.
Yeah, side and ear were the best. I was the worst option.
And David put it in there. Mm-hmm. This is David ruining our polls, poll by poll. It happens every time where he's like last minute gonna put this option in, and then that option wins.
Yeah.
But here we are.
So now we're figuring out what Biblaridian's relationship is to the book, The Trumpet of the Swan. My theory is that he heard the title and assumed that he was going to be picking up a text, that was talking about, the biology behind swans being able to, make noise. And then he was very disappointed by what he read and perhaps didn't finish it.
I, however, am now really interested in smews and widgeons. Jonathan is finding some great bird species names out there. And also, Jake, spot on. Schadenfreude. Yes. Okay. So while we wait for the results, you've got the votes.
Mostly. There are just some outstanding votes. I think that people are Googling The Trumpet of the Swan. It's a lovely book. I recommend it.
Shall we, as we wait, make this a thing?
Well, yeah, but we should probably have a small discussion about if we want to subvert this clearly non-binding poll. Oh, Biblaridians voted.
Oh my gosh.
Biblaridians voted.
I feel like for sure this is the one time we 100% need to know how Biblaridian voted to best understand the results of this poll. Or really what I want to know is, Biblaridian, did you vote the truth of the answer? Or did you vote for the one that you wanted to win because you just liked it? Yeah, the follow-up poll is, which one did Bib vote for? The follow-up poll to that is, was Bib being honest or simply voting for the best option? Oh my gosh. Okay, so David, let's talk dual.
All right. Okay, so on the subject of poll subversion and throwing out the popular vote and subverting the will of the people, where do you stand, Empress?
So for me, I enjoyed the connotation of side just because it's like just cute thinking about dogs, going along together side by side. And a lot of dogs in my life, I see them do exactly that, where like no matter how skinny the hallway and how big they are, they really do try to go side by side. And so that to me is really cute. But like I also think that ear is really solid in terms of like, you know, you got the two ears, and I think especially with thinking about body parts, because if we extend it out and if we do talk about having paw or fur, and really thinking about this sort of body part connection, I think ear is the more obvious answer because it's like it's a body part in duality, and so yeah, and so ear is my favorite, I think, for thinking about the system we're trying to create versus just having fun creating connotations, because those fun connotations are going to be built in some more modern forms.
Then are we to overthrow results of the poll?
I think you should have reworded the poll in the first place and just had, what's your preference? So we know. And then we're going to go with ear anyway.
I see. And Jake's pointing out ears are also on the side.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. I like ear. And there's nothing wrong with eye. We already have a word for ear. We can go ahead and build this in. We can make this happen right here, right now.
Absolutely. Nothing
and like
wrong.
As it gets deleted and made. What size is that? 2? 1?
That is 2.
Okay. 2-point font. Oh.
This shall be golden. All right. Very good. So here we're going to have old system, plural, dual, ear. All right. Now, what for our plural? Dog's ears, depending on the dog, will be closer to the top. It depends. Consider, if you will, Lady and the Tramp.
Where Lady's ears are definitely side.
Yeah.
Tramp's ears are more top.
Boy, people are rating as being really, really, no, not tight-lipped because it's typing, but tight-fingered, I guess, about his relationship with the trumpet of the swan.
But that's a whole like connotation in and of itself that doesn't really match the situation.
Well, we do get paid per keystroke, so.
That's true. That is true.
You probably didn't realize that. It only gets taken out once per year. Anytime you look at your bank account and say, I thought I had more than that, that was when the money was coming to us.
Whoa, Grendel. If college or university attendees have ever been marked down for turning something in last minute, you mean like still by the due date? Her ears were on top, I guess. They just fell over. Yeah, so Jake, I had the same question there, like follow up. Because if someone sets a due date, I feel like you should get all points possible if submitted by said due date. No. As a general principle for any fellow teachers out there who are wondering like how to try to encourage students to submit things even earlier than a due date, one thing I would do for my students is that they had a guaranteed, depending on the assignment size, either a 24 or 48-hour turnaround on the grade if they submitted early. And like I had a date, so it couldn't be like the day before, because at that point it's like right there and I'm going to get them all the next day. So I had to keep that in mind grading wise. But like I would have an early bird deadline. And so for students who really wanted the feedback or who needed to know what the grade was on a certain assignment, so that way they knew what grade was possible for the class to help them figure out what to do for the final assignment kind of situation, I had an early bird agreement where you would get your grade faster. It wouldn't be a better grade than it would have been had you turned it in at the due date. It was just faster, so you knew what it was.
Yeah.
And not too many students took me up on that, so I could always meet the 24 or 48 hour turnaround. But, it was there as an option. But yeah, that's kind of weird. All right.
One of those numbers is a lot bigger than the other, Jake.
Yeah. I think there was an accidental 9 added in, and it was intended to be 1 smaller, but instead was 9 times larger. Okay, so let's... Nice, CJ. And Magpie, it's always fun to get bird facts. Love it. So I am fine with doing a super large plural where it's like the old system was you distinguished, unmarked, there's most likely just 1. Dual, you had 2, or you just had a lot and you didn't really care. I'm also on board with breaking down the old system to the system that was in the language whose name I've already forgotten that Jake was giving examples from, with the heap of emus, where there was a, dual, plural, and super plural. And so, I would be fine with that as well as an old system. So if we wanted an intermediary stage, I'm fine with that. But I'm also fine with this, what you just typed out.
What I was thinking is you zoom, because presumably singular is just... Hold on a sec, I've got something for this. Yes. So, and then as you zoom in on the dog, you get the ears. And then you zoom in even further, and you get the fur. Perhaps in between is the flea.
I mean, you could also, if we wanted a specific singular marker, tail. Dog's only got 1.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't anticipating we would actually do a singular.
I did not either, but I just wanted to say.
Yeah, now that could be their word for 1.
Mm-hmm. Is that the noise they make?
Yeah.
All right, so we finally have an old system in place. We do need to have a word for fur, I believe. We have a word for ear. So for ear, yes, we have a word, which I've mentioned in this already because I've done a drawing for ear. It's allo.
Oh, well, that's no good.
Why? God, do you want to go back to I since that one anyway?
I mean, do we have a word for I?
No.
Good. It's not good because it's got that super heavy coda. It doesn't change as a result of any kind of mutation. And it's disyllabic. It also doesn't trigger any kind of mutation.
Correct, Jonathan.
Oh, man. I didn't realize we had that word.
I mean, we can go back to either side or I, since I really did win. And we can do I and make it a form you're happier with.
I'm just so disappointed that that's the word for ear. Ugh. That's like the worst possible word it could have been.
So I'm just staring at David. Because not only did he not remember that there was a word, you obviously don't remember my cute little Instagram drawing where I drew my favorite kind of ear and made it all about the ear and gave the word for ear in the language.
I'm remembering it now.
Oh, that is, man. You know what? That is something, Jake. We could have an inner and outer ear distinction.
Oh my goodness.
Flimbus and Flumbus.
Oh, man. After we subverted the will of people.
Well, I guess this is the will of the people coming to bite us in the. I don't know if we're allowed to say that in the tail. There we go.
Rear.
With the emphasis on ear. So how about we do I? That was what was voted. And it makes sense. It's a body part. It usually occurs in twos. And it's not as cute as ear, but you don't like our word for ear, and now we've got that.
Yeah. I mean, there is floppy ear versus sticky uppy ear, I guess.
There are different kinds of dog ears. That is very true. Whether they're the cute beagle ears or the pert chihuahua ears.
Yeah.
Jonathan's on board with the 2 words for ears. And Jake, if you're asking what David was not happy with, it's that our word for ear has a heavy coda consonant that doesn't participate in a lot of reductions, and so we would kind of be stuck with a disyllabic alvo form, and it's hard to reduce it in ways that would make it fit.
It also begins with a vowel. It's not easily reduced. It's
and so
like that's the thing, like there's no way to clip it.
And you should not clip your dog's ears, speaking of. Poor puppies. Let's see what happens here. I'm a little nervous, David. I'm a little nervous. It's a good thing I have a delicious fizzy water to enjoy.
No, I don't like that. No.
Jake, David has determined he's not happy with the form. There's no coming back from it. I would have gotten around it. I would have just had some fun with it.
How can you have fun with owl?
David is so not having fun with it.
It is the milk toastiest word that could ever be grammaticalized.
How many votes we got?
Probably enough. 19.
I think we have enough.
Bibbleridian Supervote hasn't been added yet, but...
Welcome to the club, Jake. Welcome.
All right. And, now we can decide. So which one? Shall owl be floppy ear or sticky up ear?
Well, like you say it, and I feel like it should be floppy ear, but your favorite ears are the floppy beagle ones, which means maybe it should not be.
Owl. So it was owl, right? Owl. That became allo.
Yeah. And oh.
Yes.
Do you like my little barks? You're welcome, everyone, for the really random noises I just made, but tried to connect it to the pointy ears. So let's come up with a new root for floppy ears.
More visible, so it makes more sense to become a dual. Regarding sticky uppy ears.
Wait, Jonathan.
His most recent, and then his second to most recent, not his third to most recent.
Is better for counting, more visible. All right.
Then we can have our floppy owl.
I did in the drawing mention the floppy ears are my favorite.
That's right. All right.
And that was the word. And so, okay, Jonathan, they made a good point. We're going with their point there. Sticky uppy ears are more visible.
So this is going to be...
CJ, it is the kind of L that I just can't do, and it does come out sounding a lot more glidey than the L that is produced more frontward in the mouth. So it's not allo, it's allo, allo, allo,
Allo.
allo.
Just pronounce it with a Russian accent. Allo.
He says as if I can do a Russian accent.
Psycholog.
This is my face. And so, okay, so.
Okay. Sticky uppy ear.
Oh, did you change up top
I did.
the protoform for
Yeah,
floppy ear? Thank you. All right, so sticky uppy ear. David, what kind of form would make your heart happy as a dual marker in this language? What should we be eliciting in terms of phonetic form? In other words, just give us the form and we're going to love it because you gave it to us.
Something that has mutations triggered on the front of it and which triggers a mutation.
Like a vowel?
That's
Just a
one
vowel?
possibility. Another possibility is it could end with an M. Another possibility is that it could end with, or it could have I as its proto-diphthongy form. And then for the first consonant, something like, I don't know, T or B or something like that. Something that institutes some sort of change. So what do you think?
All right, so our options are by, tai, or in.
No, like Tom, Tom, Tim, or like, because it's got to be something in the front.
And hey, Tincture, glad you're here. All right, so I'm gonna go up to the sound chart. Remember, the red forms are proto, so you could use them. The green forms you can't use because they're modern, and so we need to be thinking proto form. And so yeah,
Let's pull
look
up.
at the red and black forms as you try to think of forms.
I'm going to pull up lexergy.tom to see what types of things change.
And either something that ends with an M or something whose nucleus is I.
Or just a vowel.
Or just a vowel.
Yeah.
Those are your options. Feel free to shout out suggestions. And don't be hurt when David says, nah. Is that accurate? Have you found anything?
I was just taking a look to see how. So, like,
I'm too lazy to get the actual. So I'm just going to do this, and you can fill in the actual forms if you like them. Oh, I forgot how to do that. Oh well.
let's see what happens to
Oh, I like that one better. Okay. And then the T could either be aspirated or pharyngealized, depending on which one you like better or what might do something interesting. But those are some suggestions there. David, do you like any of them?
I
Or just
like them all.
Ooh.
No, I don't like that one.
I went one too far. I overreached my success. Oh man.
All right.
But as soon as we get this word done,
Protoforms.
poor little. I think I need some more water there. My basil plant. And after we find this word, we're totally going to celebrate with some kopiko.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there because after this, we have to come up with a word for fur. And then we'll have our old system done. And again, it could be.
Yeah, this is just going to be what their
fancy.
This is just what their modern forms are going to be. So it's not necessarily what they're going to show up as.
Technically, the K also needs aspiration or something.
Yeah, it does.
I was just being really lazy. Same with the Q. I was being kind of lazy.
Yeah.
All right. And the I examples, the ones that end in I, are going to participate in palatalization.
Yeah, and the M ones are going to do nasal
stuff. So there we go. David, can you pronounce all 4 modern forms in order on the poll that you created?
Kai tum kai gum gom.
Perfect. You have passed the test.
Mm.
Your status as a conlanger is still valid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, we seem to have a preference. Is that from multiple votes or just from like 2 votes? Ooh.
Barely any.
Handful of votes. We got to get on this. Get on this pointy words because we need to celebrate with some kopiko.
I figure a lot of people left our stream because Biblaridian saw that we were streaming and decided to do some just, drop of the hat live stream where he just sits there and reads. It doesn't even say anything to the camera. It's just a live shot of him reading, and all of our audience went there, and I understand why. It's easy to understand.
And the forms were just kai, tum, kai, gam.
The protoforms were, yeah.
The modern form,
No.
kai and kai, would be pronounced the same. And silvertail, no, not in this particular one. No, it's just, do you want that euphular in the protoform? I guess if we put the kais together, I think we know our winner, yeah.
Here, hold on a sec. Let me double check.
Does the euphular affect something before it?
No. Oh. Yes, there is a slight difference. So when this will be the genitive, so of to something, the Q1 is going to come out as aiha, whereas the K1 is going to come out with ahu, or ahya, excuse me.
Because it will pull forward with that palatalization, whereas the Q1 will not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to reduce it somehow. And we've got, I mean, like, I think we've got the votes. Well, but that's the thing, Mr. Luridian. Like, you wouldn't actually have to produce you know, the content. You could just sit there and command an audience that was 7 times the size that we could command, simply because it has your name attached to it.
With a fancy check mark.
Can you believe the Bibleridian, like imagine the Bibleridian like reading hour or something?
Ooh, that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, it would play right into the name. You know, you could call it the you know, Bibleridian's Bibleridian. Right?
All right.
You can actually read the Trumpet of the Swan since you haven't read it. It's never going to tell us.
We've got our votes. We're doing the Q
Yeah.
variant, which again will participate in some, you know, variation depending on that. So
Yeah.
David's going to type that in. And
so the modern word for sticky uppy ear is going to be kai, but I think that, right? But this is going to be essentially, it's going to do the same thing as ah. So the thing
so it'll be ka.
Yeah, it'll either be kai or it'll be ka. Well, hold on a sec. Let's just actually go ahead and do this in the romanization since we have that. There. And it will trigger palatalization. Okay, we did it.
Now we're going to celebrate. And I'm going to stay up here on the sound inventory just because we need to come up with a word for fur next. And I'm feeling nasal for fur.
Okay.
Nasal mutations.
All right. All right.
And so
ending with that.
we're gonna play into that. We undermine poll results by just changing them. Bibleridian respects the poll process so much that we're not going to find out the truth about the trumpet swan. And that, dear friends, is why Bibleridian has a more devoted following.
Cheers, successful partner.
Because Bibleridian respects the group process. And we're like, thank you for giving us your opinion. We like this other one better. Oh my goodness.
Go when subverting the will of the people is more important to you than being popular. All right.
Okay. Silvertail has a cool form, not for this, but just for funsies. And I'm going to type it in because, you know,
yeah,
we may also, for funsies, want to do that someday.
And a few patrons have already sent us name requests, so we will get to those too.
Okay, note that. Okay, it's not that. It's not that. There it is.
This is the best word. Just leave that. Yeah, we'll make that into a word. Looks like a
tautolon word. But look at all this beautiful ligature-ish curling. Right, well, take that out. But look at how it just hugs the next form so beautifully. That is gorgeous. All right, I am gonna, well, okay, well, let's put the real one in below it. I can leave it for fun, but this is the real form. I was typing all the different forms of R on the IPA keyboard to remind myself how to get the upside down capital R, and it was the last one I tried. Okay.
All right. Where is our M1? Ohm.
So we do not want to redo that.
Yeah, it can't be ohm. Probably shouldn't be either.
How do I do the H? You know what? I'm just typing H. It's fine.
Honestly, it should probably be CBM. So, Tethys, right after my own heart. I love having mem words. I always add an, no, it's mem, not mum. Don't ruin it.
Sorry, I misread it.
But I always have a mem word in every single one of my languages. Not our languages, but every single one of my own.
What's wrong with our languages that you don't want mem words?
Because my memoirs are my own.
Wow. Okay. Oh, CJ is saying mum was a good suggestion because it's, you know, fur is warm like a mother's embrace.
Never understood mum.
Because you can't think outside of mom of American English.
That's right.
Exactly, CJ. All right, here's some suggestions, David. Pick your top 4, and I think you should put them to a vote. We got a lot of M and words to stay away from the and
How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can only eliminate 2? Gosh darn.
Well, suggest a new one if you want another one, David.
Getting rid of M. Since I specifically asked for a CVM form.
You asked for that after I started the list.
Got it, understood. And then I think I want to get rid of lum. All right, here we go. Okay, this is what shall our word for fur be? Okay, fur be. So can you help me out with some of these? I think the majority of them don't change. Is that right?
That's a wonderful question, David. And wow, look how slow this is moving.
I should probably do it, huh?
I am attempting. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. If I just type H, does it? Yes, thank you, Graham.
Yeah.
All right, so we need him, we need hum, we need lim, and
Are you
mem.
sure? Are you sure?
Not lim. What was the other one?
I don't know.
I swear.
Mem.
Vem.
Mem and vem.
I had mem. I needed vem. All right, let's apply.
Yeah.
Vem and mem just stay the same.
They all stay the same. All right.
Oh yeah, that's because I didn't type in the real H, because Graham is wonderful and lets us type in H's that get turned into the H it needs to be. Okay, and then
Vem or vim. Vim. You know, you got to make sure to distinguish between a and e. Vim.
I can't type from the side like this.
What do you mean?
My fingers are not hitting the right keys.
No, but like, what do you mean from the side?
I need the keyboard tilted. And then this is going to be for it's going to be something, probably ending in M, because we only had one
Are we skluing this? Are we skluing this? What's the word for fur in the cat language?
It's hum.
It is, isn't it? They're making an accidental homonym thingy. Yep, hum is fur. him is fur in the dog language. Hum is fur in the cat language.
We
Oh
only
my
have one
goodness.
nasal. We were trying to stay away from the O and ah, which kind of triggered me to stay away from the U as well. And I was thinking a fricative is a nice
Yeah,
fur.
definitely not a loan word. False cognate is fine.
Grandma saying that potentially Canadian thing is still spelled M-O-M but pronounced mum.
Hmm. Oh my god. Yeah. Whoa, wait. We're tied now.
Go Mim and Vim. Come on.
Yeah.
Vim, Vim.
I mean, right now, him and them are tied. So if we stop it,
Oh my gosh. Although, look at what Mateus and Jake are building up here. The cats and dogs argue about which one borrowed it from whom, when in fact neither did, and they're actually not cognates at all, but they have these disagreements about who originally came up with the word for fur.
all
And
right,
Jake says it's the start of violence between groups is over who gets to claim the originators of him.
all right. I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
I think Jake and Mateus did some excellent story building. And really, I promise you that was totally accidental. I was not trying to do anything silly. There's the H I needed. Him stays. Oops. There we go. I know, Tethys. Mem will have to be something else. You know what it won't be? It won't be a word meaning share. But I will put it here as a root. Okay, so now I'm going to come rejoin you down here. Hey and him. Jake wants it to mean share.
All right.
All right, we got an old system. Woo!
Yeah, so now we can decide on what our initial and more common members are of the larger system. And also how the old system is going to be reinterpreted, though I imagine dual will just stay dual. All right, let's delete the green now.
Which means like just delete dual because we're not going to come up with a fancy dual, right?
Here, we've got
hey, K.
That K?
That K.
Oh, man. This is our friend Kay Winfield, who just started a new art Instagram, if you want to take a look at it. And it is called something I'm going to find.
It's pretty odd art in, is it? Well, I can look it up on my Instagram much faster. The start of dog rhetoric. Friends, cats, and countrymen, may you mim me your hymns. I love it. Here we go. Pretty odd arts and crafts. Underscores. Ooh, with mango soap on the way. Woohoo! That's exciting.
With an and, too?
Yeah.
There you go.
God, those are
it is time to figure out this week's poll.
Yeah, we do need to figure out how the larger system. I think it would be kind of cool for fur to almost be reinterpreted in most cases as a collective, because even though fur is not countable necessarily, like it's all confined to the body of whatever dog you're talking about, versus something like if we did like rain or something else that's like super big and innumerable, they're not together. It's like they're just kind of all over the place. And so having that modern system, meaning like all dogs, all trees, all whatever is built off that old fur one.
Okay, good. But yeah, we do need to figure out the next poll.
Well,
we know for the most part that adjectives are going to come from nouns, so this is going to just. How about we do this?
oh yeah, we can definitely do that. I was going to say the other thing is if you wanted to kind of nail down this system, is we could come up with a series of options for how to group together these other options for more creative plurals that are nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that we should do that on the stream next time.
Okay. Okay. In which case, go ahead and say out loud what you highlighted for me to okay for the poll.
So I was looking at demonstratives, and we can decide that. Did we already decide that numbers are coming, like determiners are going to come before the nouns?
I don't think we decided that. But then again, I didn't think we had really decided that all our adjectives were going to be really nouny adjectives, and yet here we are.
We did.
And so where do you want those numbers to appear, David?
I almost feel like at the very end. I know that we discussed this because we brought up Malagasy and its determiners that come before and after the noun.
Sorry, I blinked out a little. I was reading comments. Okay, so when you say before and after nouns, you mean the ones that are repeated before and after, or the ones where it's like articles appear in one place, but then demonstratives appear in another, and you have to use them in conjunction with each other? So, like, if you want to say like that dog, you have to say like the dog that, or something like that, like in Irish.
Well, we don't have articles though.
But I was asking, like, what kind of system were you referring to? Like something where two different markers are required on either side, or something where you repeat the marker on both sides?
You repeat it on both sides is what happens in Malagasy, and I was saying that we talked about that on this stream, and we talked about that in conjunction with deciding where demonstrators were going to go. I just don't remember what we decided.
And that was for sure last time?
Jake says they can back me up on this.
So, Jake, do you remember the decision? Because that would, after poll results.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I think demonstratives should come at the very end.
I love the hand gesture to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just the end. It's like, it's with a flourish. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Let's see. So we have preposition, plural, noun, potential modifier, variant.
See, the flair comes first. The flourish is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, hello, lovely people walking outside the window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so demonstratives at the end. Let's make that real.
Because Doug's pointing there too.
I'm just going to type that as a little note here. Yeah, underlined, because why not?
We could actually write it in the demonstrative section.
Everything is underlined here.
We could write it in the demonstrative section.
Okay, well, go for it. Demonstratives are indeed pointer words. I love it. But yeah, I will now delete this note.
All right. And so then what the poll is going to be is what demonstratives we're going to have.
In other words, the distinctions. Is it a two-way distinction, a three-way distinction?
Kind of a secondary idea. I don't know if we want to decide ahead of time if these things are going to double as pronouns.
What, in all our other LangTime languages, have we had demonstrative forms, the determiner forms double as pronouns, or did we do a split system in any of our LangTime languages yet? Oh my gosh, get ready. Everyone get ready for David's face if he actually takes a drink. He's going to be so disappointed.
I'm just smelling it. Oh, it smells so good. How could something that smells this good taste bad?
Go ahead and try it. And let's see. You look like a sad puppy who's just found out that their favorite toy has been ripped by another dog.
It tastes like medicine.
No, it's really quite delightful and light. It is Waterloo peach flavored sparkling water, and I rather enjoy it. He did just witness his favorite animal die. Oh, Jake, good luck. Good luck. I wish you the best on that pronunciation conundrum. We can have a new reaction for Discord if somebody gets that photo. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. We can get a new David reaction. And if you have me cruelly laughing at him, that could also be a reaction as well. Because that's what I do. And like, here's the thing. I always encourage, if David wants to try something I'm drinking, I'm always like, go for it. But like, I know he's going to hate it because one, he hates carbonation. And what is sparkling water except carbonation? Two, I prefer the things that are very lightly flavored. And so it, like, there's no fruit juice or anything. And so it's just kind of lightly flavored.
I just smelled it and it smelled so peachy.
Oh, that was so sad. Oh.
I was very excited. It even distracted me.
Okay.
You can run back the tape and see when I smelled it. It was like, ooh, it interrupted my thought.
Oh yeah, Jonathan, all the screenshots you've got that would be good reactions, we can work those in. We still have some slots left for new reactions for the server.
Oh yeah, Silvertail. It's always been very painful. I will never forget the first time that I had a soda. It was a Pepsi, and I was at something I didn't want to be at, which was Knott's Berry Farm's Halloween Haunt. Which is Knott's Berry Farm is a local amusement park, and on Halloween they do this thing where all the rides, they put scary people in it, and scary people wander around, and they add scary mazes. And I hate Halloween, and I hate scary things. And here I was at this thing because I was invited by my friend's mother, and it was for free, and it was, Knott's Berry Farm. You could go on rides. Anyway, I was very thirsty, and one of them had a large Pepsi. And I was like, well, I've heard of this Pepsi. I think that people enjoy it. And I'm very thirsty. And I took a great big drink. And it was one of the most painful experiences of my life. Like, it felt like my throat was being eaten away by acid. It was awful, terrible, and it didn't quench my thirst and made it all hurt inside. And it's never changed. It still feels like that.
I, on the other hand, like it.
The pain?
No, the fizzy
The
bit.
pain.
It's not painful to me.
It's very painful. Like, could you just swig it? To me, it sounds like you're saying coffee isn't hot. It's not like coffee isn't hot. It's just that you sip it very slowly and you enjoy the hot beverage.
Yes, but sparkly water is a way to slow down and enjoy the drink. Because
So
you
the
don't
pain is
chug it.
there. The pain is there to prevent you from drinking it too fast. Is that right?
No, if you were to chug this, then you would just get like super burpy. Like I don't get the point of chugging it.
It's
Why
so
you gotta
painful.
chug things? Why can't you just enjoy and savor the moment? Okay, someone please get that.
Oh, a
Okay.
little sip of water. That's all I
Thank
need.
you, Mateus. I too could swig a cola, but yes, like really you gotta weigh it out with one, do I really want to swig it? Two, like yeah, how burpy you want to be.
No, it is quite literally painful. It hurts all the way down and for a little while afterwards.
So,
Ugh.
anyway.
So the thing is, I didn't have a ready answer to your question. I have some very strong memories of creating demonstratives for our LangTime languages, but I don't remember how many of them we allowed for them to double as pronouns.
So here's what I'm suggesting. One, not necessarily base the full decision on that, but I would like to see if we do have different forms. And part of that is just sort of to see, just in terms of like we're creating all these languages. But also we need to think about what makes sense for this language.
Okay, so for Ingala, we have modifier forms and pronominal forms, and they're different.
Okay.
And I certainly will never ever forget when we came up with the demonstratives for Tapahla, because you came up with them and it was brilliant, but I just don't remember, the distinction.
Well, it was based on senses, but I don't know that they're pronouns / modifiers.
Okay, so Tapahla, they can be both already. That's a difference. And let's see. I guess we haven't opened it in a while.
Oh, right there, down. There we go. Yeah, see, Graham, like, to me, I don't judge is a drink good if you can swig it, because I don't need to swig all my drinks. That is a distinction between me and David, I guess.
We're completely getting beside the point here. Does it cause physical pain or not? And it's like, why would you ever drink something that caused physical pain?
Swigging cold water also gives me physical pain because it's the brain freeze. Like it hurts. All right.
First of all, I never said anything about it having to be cold. The
best water is cold water.
So for Wokatiji, they're suffixes. No, they're prefixes. And we didn't actually...
Oh, wait, the demonstrative is down here.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, right, that whole thing.
Oh, we've got crazy forms for these demonstratives.
Yeah.
But that doesn't say whether they can be pronouns. These are definitely modifiers in this role. Wow, we just ignored
money,
it.
drugs. Yeah, we kind of ignored it in Wokathishi. It's probably just going to get added to some generic.
Oh, Jake. Kombucha's not for everybody. I'm actually kind of surprised you don't enjoy it given some of the other flavors that I know you do enjoy. But at the same time, I totally respect that you're not a kombucha person, and I will keep that in mind when next we meet in person, and I will not give you a kombucha to drink. Um, and Mateus has a point. David, you say that as if physical pain is always bad. Point. I agree, Mateus. And yeah, anime fan, I can indeed get like brain freeze from drinking cold water too fast. Magpie.
Well
Okay,
done.
I will refrain from offering you kombucha as well, Magpie.
Sarkije can be both.
It can be both demonstrative,
or
determiner, and modifier and pronoun. Okay.
Yeah, so that's 2 languages that can, 1 that can't, and 1 where
Goodness only knows. I feel like it can't though
I feel like it can't either.
because the way they
Yeah.
work, they are definitely prefixes.
Yeah, so
which means there would
added
have to be a
something.
full form, which would be different from their prefix forms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
So it's 2-2.
2 to 2.
So that means we're really on an even split here, and we can rest easily knowing we have adequately demonstrated that they don't have to be the same
Yeah.
in our demonstratives. And so here we really can do what makes sense. And I don't know, for this language, if we're going to have some older zero derivation built into it, I think it could make sense to just have the same form.
Yeah.
If we want to overwrite that later on and say, no, there's actually different, we could have like the demonstrative modifier has to have like something working with it, like a sort of gappy pronoun that is there as a dummy placeholder to just turn it into like, nah, I mean the pronoun.
Personally, especially since they're coming at the end, so they're kind of like de-emphatic, I feel like it should be both, and we're going to make them nice and thick, you know, real beefy boys.
Like aglo.
You just start off with without an onset. Just
I was starting off with the word for ear, for floppy ear, to make fun of the fact that you thought it was far too heavy of a form. I was teasing you.
That's what you were saying. I'm so sorry.
Excuse me while I force David to drink more fizzy water.
Here. Hold on. Put your tongue. Put it right there.
It's time to go.
Owl.
It's time to go.
Owl.
And we enjoyed having you all here.
Yeah, be proud.
Oh, Jake. 90% dark chocolate. Yes, please.
Mm.
Okay, anyway. We're glad you're here. And we'll be here next week as normal. It's the week after that. That may not be normal.
Yes.
We'll figure that out.
Yes.
But next week will be normal. And, oh my gosh, we could take Silvertail's route. Oh, yes.
You're right.
We could totally use that. We've got it up above. So we could totally.
It feels like it could be like
do that.
Far distal. All right.
We may do that. But thank you all for being here. Stay grammar, and we will see you next Thursday.
Here, I'll get it.
David's going to get it. Woo!
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, Kate. Jesse, do one of your Jesse smiles.
Was that it?
That was good.